The Fox's Palace. Children's book by Tuula Pere. Summary. Francis the Fox has been dreaming of acquiring some land near the sea to build a local attraction called the Fox's Palace. Now the devious fox has found the perfect location, the land used for an old badger's boat rental business and the city's popular beach. Luckily, the city's wise mayor, William the Wolf, realizes what Francis is up to, and he will not be cheated so easily. Pages 2 and 3. Francis, a young and ambitious fox, enjoyed living in his new home, a city by the coast. Although his initial plans hadn't quite panned out, Francis refused to give up. It doesn't matter that I wasn't able to replace William the Wolf as mayor, Francis told himself. The time just wasn't right for a reformer like me. Luckily, William the Wolf had forgiven Francis for his stunts, but the fox was now banned from working at City Hall. He had to come up with something else to do. Francis spooned watery soup into his growling stomach, pondering his options. I didn't come here to fail. The day will come when everyone will see what I'm made of. A talent like mine is destined to shine. Pages 4 and 5. Back home in their mountain village, Francis's family was quite worried. They hadn't heard from Francis in ages. His mother especially wanted to stay in touch with her son. Francis often received long letters from her, but his replies were brief, fending off her offers to visit him. The last thing I need is for my mother and siblings to come here and snoop around, the fox thought. I can't show this dump to anyone. They can come as soon as I've managed to get a place of my own with a big balcony and a sea view. Francis didn't want his family or friends to visit because his letters home had accidentally given some untruthful impressions of his life in the city. He'd even sent fake photos to fool them. Pages 6 and 7. Delighted, Francis's mother read his letters aloud to her friends. My Francis is doing so well in the city. I hope he isn't working too hard. He's too busy to even visit us, she said. The clippings Francis sent were passed around among the listeners. There were photos of a beautiful apartment and grand stairwell in an office building. The group marveled at the impressive pictures. This is Francis's home and workplace? That fox sure got lucky. Despite the flashy photos, deep in her heart, the mother was concerned. Ever since he was little, Francis had been unreliable. His siblings' treats and favorite toys had often been found under his pillow, and little Francis's word wasn't something one could trust. Pages 8 and 9. Francis the Fox's favorite spot in his new home was the popular city beach. There, one could gaze at blue water and soft sand as far as the eye could see. Swimmers' colorful towels and umbrellas dotted the beach. Children splashing in the water screamed with joy, while adults socialized with each other. In the distance were ice cream stands, little shops, and changing rooms. This is such a magnificent place and so close to downtown, Francis said, sipping fresh juice at Barry the Badger's cafe. From there, it was fun to watch the activity on the beach while chatting with the old-timer about his boat rental business. This is indeed a fine place, but unfortunately, I'm getting too old to run the shop. Barry the Badger sighed. Pages 10 and 11. From dawn till dusk, Barry the Badger had his hands full. Francis wasn't at all surprised that the old badger felt tired at times. You need an energetic helper, someone like me, Francis the Fox said. Not at all a bad idea, but I can't afford to pay you much. A boat rental business isn't exactly a gold mine, Barry said. Before long, Francis the Fox had talked the old badger into his scheme. The new boat rental assistant would start first thing in the morning. What have I done? Barry the badger thought later, shaking his head as he watched Francis strut toward the gate. But perhaps everything would turn out well. Maybe Francis will take over my boat rental business one day, he thought, and then I can finally retire. Pages 12 and 13. Francis the fox became an eager helper. Relieved, Barry watched how briskly his young employee got to work. The fox seemed to be everywhere at once, serving customers at the counter and tidying up the boathouse. He'd put the spare parts and tools in the workshop in neat order, too. The old badger appreciated the help, but little by little, he grew worried about some of Francis's activities. What is Francis doing at the back of my lot? He seems to be measuring something. And what on earth does he need a map and a compass for? Barry wondered. I'd better keep a close eye on him. Pages 14 and 15. After several days of watching how absorbed Francis was in taking measurements and notes, Barry could no longer help himself. He had to find out what was going on. Francis, what in the world are you up to? Why are you so interested in this lot and buildings? The badger asked. It's always good to have a look around just to see that everything's in order, Francis said quickly. But I've had this lot for decades, the badger said. Its boundaries are correctly marked and all the buildings are in pretty decent shape. What if... The fox licked his lips. What if one day you actually want to sell this lot? Pages 16 and 17. Stunned, Barry stared at the young fox who was tilting his head, awaiting a reply. I can't sell the boat rental. This is my entire life's work, he finally managed to say. I understand, but you can't continue this forever, can you? The fox pressed him. You're not a youngster anymore. But who would make sure city folks can go boating in their leisure time? Everyone's used to renting canoes, boats, and surfboards here, Barry said. The boat rental is one of the most important businesses at this beach. Francis tried to calm down the frantic badger. Don't worry, Barry. Everything will work out just fine. You have me after all. Pages 18 and 19. At first, Barry the badger was strongly against everything Francis the fox proposed. But the longer the young fox kept talking and explaining, pleading and convincing, the more the old badger started to give in. I guess it could work. Perhaps after you've learned how to properly manage the boat rental, Barry said. It's important that my business continues without interruption, and the customers are happy. Only on that condition will I ever sell the business or the lot. You won't have to worry about anything, the fox promised. I'll draw up the contract papers tonight. Had Barry the badger known what Francis had in mind, he would have felt very worried. Pages 20 and 21. At home, Francis threw himself into serious scheming. He laid out his maps and measurements on the dinner table. He needed to draw up the contract papers and get Barry the badger to sign them. That would call for resourcefulness, and luckily, the fox had plenty of that. I'm going to make the first few pages of the contract easy to read, Francis thought. Then I'll stick lots of small print items at the end. He grinned. Once I have Barry's signature, he won't be in charge anymore and the whole property will be mine. After toiling away long into the night, Francis was finally ready for his ultimate attack. The fox was so excited he could barely sleep. Pages 22 and 23. First thing in the morning, Francis headed straight for Barry the badger's office, his fur still rumpled from his late night. He spread the papers on Barry's desk. Oh dear, this is so sudden, and there's so much text, the old badger moaned. Some of it is so small, I can't read it without my glasses. Now where did I put them? Panicked, the badger spun around, trying to find his glasses. Francis pretended to help him. Here they are, under the office chair, but oh no, the fox yelped. They're broken. Someone has stepped on them. The fox spoke in a soothing tone. But we won't let that bother us. I can talk you through the documents. It took a while to examine all the documents. At times, Barry felt quite nervous while listening to the fox's explanations. He was particularly worried about the fact that the most important things were in small print, which the badger couldn't read without his glasses. "Just go ahead and sign the contract," Francis the fox urged him. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." At last, Barry the badger scrawled his signature on 2 copies of the contract and gave a heavy sigh. Pages 24 and 25. "I'm going to take the day off. There's so much planning to do," Francis the fox said, fussing about. "Here's your copy of the contract, although you have no use for it until you get a new pair of glasses." The fox waved his furry paw and slipped out of the boat rental. He was now the new owner of the beach area and in a hurry to talk to the city mayor, William the Wolf. Francis's plans included things that Barry had no idea about, nor did anyone else know about them, for that matter. Francis the fox's name would go down in history. Of that, he was dead certain. Excited and sweaty, the fox climbed the hill on top of which sat majestic City Hall. "I need to sit down for a bit to catch my breath and collect my thoughts before I meet the mayor. It will be no picnic. William the Wolf can't be tricked that easily." Pages 26 and 27. Barry the badger had finally found his spare reading glasses and was now examining the contract more closely. "I cannot believe I signed these ridiculous papers. I have lost everything to Francis the fox." Barry moaned desperately, wringing his paws. If the fox's grand plan went through, the entire beach with its canoes and ice cream stands would be gone. It would all be replaced by the fox's palace. The extravagant building would sprawl along the beach, with docks that would replace places where everyone swam. "I need to see Mayor William the Wolf right away. He's a wise official who will surely know how to help." Barry slipped the contract into his briefcase and made his way to City Hall. The old badger's step was slow and wobbly. Francis the fox had been faster. Pages 28 and 29. Barry the badger huffed and puffed up the stairs, making his way to his old friend's office. Barry quickly explained the situation to William the Wolf and showed him the papers he'd signed. William the Wolf frowned. "Now I understand why Francis the fox just paid me a visit." Francis had asked the mayor to sign all sorts of papers. There had been a lottery permit and permits for a flea market event and fundraisers that required official approval. The fox had talked nonstop and moved the papers around so that William had had a hard time keeping up with him. "I wonder what I accidentally signed," William the Wolf said. "But the fox tricked me, so those papers are invalid. I must call the police commissioner right away." Pages 30 and 31. Before long, Commissioner Pincher's car pulled up in front of City Hall. William the Wolf and Barry the badger climbed into the back seat. With roaring sirens, they drove down to the boat rental. Francis the fox was sitting in a lounge chair in the shade, eyeing the signatures he'd collected. He flinched at the arrival of the angry visitors. The trio was led by William the Wolf with Commissioner Pincher by his side. The old badger was trying his best to keep up with them. "Hand me the papers right away," Mayor Wolf bellowed. "Do you truly believe they are legal? You have deceived everyone, and that is a crime." "Crime it is," confirmed Commissioner Pincher, looking serious. "But they are all properly signed and—" The fox started. Pages 32 and 33. William the Wolf had no mercy for the fox. "Hold your tongue, you rapscallion. Someone who tricks a half-blind badger into signing some shady papers is up to no good," the mayor scolded him. "But I now have a building permit for the Fox's Palace," Francis kept insisting. "You most certainly do not. You slipped it among the other papers for me to sign. That paper is worth nothing. It's just a blank sheet as far as I'm concerned. In our city, important matters are handled differently, with careful consideration." Pages 34 and 35. Commissioner Pincher arrested Francis and locked him in a cell. During the long, sleepless hours, the young fox had time to think about his deeds. "I suppose I was too eager and greedy. I wonder if I have a single friend left in this city. What if I end up in prison?" Francis became really worried now. In the morning, Mayor Wolf came to the police station. He had a long talk with Commissioner Pincher. Finally, they agreed that all the papers that Francis had prepared would be torn up, and that Francis himself would be released. The mayor promised to personally keep an eye on the deceitful fox from then on. Pages 36 and 37. Mayor Wolf took the ashamed fox for a walk along the beach. Quietly, the pair wandered all the way to the end of a breakwater and sat down side by side. "It's time to shred the papers for the Fox's Palace and bury your dreams," William the Wolf said. "All of them? Can't I keep just one picture of the palace as a keepsake?" Francis begged, his head drooping. "All right, pick one." William sighed. "But remember, Francis, it was just a dream. City residents enjoy boating and swimming here, and that's much more important than your grand plans." The mayor began to tear the papers into little slips. The pair sat there in silence for a long while, watching the wind swirl the shredded paper farther and farther away to the open sea. Francis the fox heaved a deep sigh. You have listened. The Fox's Palace of the Francis the Fox series, a children's book by Dr. Tuula Pere, published by Wickwick, read aloud by Jessica, Virtual Voices of Wickwick Labs.